Alan Dershowitz had to abandon all tenets of religious cause to that story in order to be able to get that not guilty call for Abraham. Yeah. This is on the Blaze. This is Dershowitz. Dershowitz argued that one of the charges in the mock case, child endangerment, should have been dismissed, as there is no evidence in his view that Isaac wasn't past 17 years of age. So it's basically saying it's not a question of what Abraham was doing was awful and a crime. The question is if he was doing it to a child or not. So it's still giving him it's not giving him any bit of distance in morality. Also, this is the bigger one. This is the kicker that crushes the religious connotation to the whole story and all the religious significance. The famed attorney at Harvard law professor also argued that God and Abraham were merely playing theological chicken.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And that the so-called crime would have never been committed, the Times reported. He would have never plunged the knife, Dershowitz said of Abraham. So what Dershowitz's argument is saying is, oh, they're playing chicken. Abraham would have never actually killed his son. The religious connection is that Abraham loved God so much and feared God so much that he would sacrifice his son if told to. The only thing that saved him from killing his own son was God, the man that made him set it up. And so it's in a way, it morally knocked the foundation just right out from under the story in the way, even though they lost the court case, the religious battle, it had to abandon all religious significance in order for that to be true. And let's play with it a little further. Dershowitz's statement of saying that it was theological chicken. Now, if that story is true, then what that Bible story is saying is God's going to tell you to do some stuff that you don't want to do. Just pretend you want to do it, and you can trick him.
Yeah.
Like man won. Man beat God in a game of chicken, according to Alan Dershowitz. It's ridiculous. It's just junk. And if you take Dershowitz's argument, it literally would. The story of that would be that God will test you, and he'll have you do things. He'll tell you to do things that he really doesn't want you to do. You just have to pretend you want to with all your heart, and then he'll give you a break at the end. Let's knock it around every which way, shall we?
Yes.
I think another way to look at it is if it was true, let's say that it is true, and that God did send Abraham up there. Hearing a story like that, is that a reasonable God to worship? The one that's going to just on a whim decide you're going to trade your kids? Dude, he bet with the devil on Job. He just had a bet with the devil. Oh, I bet you he won't curse me. I bet you he will. Well, let me just fuck up his life and see if it works or not. That's what he did.
Right, it is what he did.
Even if he's even though I feel it's a pretend God, if it's a real God, is it a God worth even giving a deified status to? It's unbelievable that people would think that this is a proper way to act or a way to idolize. But people daily still use that argument that God told them to do it. It's just our logical discourse now tells us that they're full of it. A couple years ago, there was a gal who attempted to drown her kids in a bathtub, and she said it was because God told her to do it. Well, logical discourse immediately tells us that she's crazy.
Right.
She needs help. Now, let's backtrack 2,000 years, take the same woman, put her in the same situation about maybe she's going to drown her kids in the river, but she said God did it. And imagine she's saying it with power and money to an illiterate group of people.
Right.
There might be some belief that she actually thought God was there, but now it's 2,000 years later, and we know that is crazy talk. Like you were saying, there's just such a distance between being someone who is worth giving your attention to in terms of being someone to idolize or to live like, or being someone who hurts and endangers their own children. And somehow there's this way, this story is a blending of the two and still comes out where people will say, man, well, there's still some ways of logically arguing for killing your kid for God. And how?